You know what's the worst feeling in gardening? It's the middle of summer. Your neighbors' gardens are bursting with food, and you're standing in your backyard staring at empty raised beds. Or worse, a patch of dead seedlings you spent $40 on, thinking, what am I doing wrong? I've been there, more times than I want to admit. I remember one June about 8 years ago. I'd put in tomatoes too late, my beans rotted in the ground, because I planted them when the soil was still cold, and the lettuce I tried to grow bolted into something that looked more like a small tree than a salad. I walked back inside that evening and thought, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. But here's the thing nobody tells beginners, and even a lot of intermediate gardeners get this wrong. June is not a deadline. June is an opportunity. If you know what to plant, June can actually kick off one of the most productive stretches of your entire growing season. Today, I'm going to share 12 fast-growing vegetables that absolutely belong in your June garden. Some of these you've definitely heard of. A few might surprise you, and at least one of them completely changed the way I think about summer gardening. I'm going to save the best for last because trust me, if you tap out early, you'll miss the one vegetable that I wish someone had told me about 15 years ago. So, stick around. Whether you're a beginner just figuring things out or a seasoned homesteader looking to squeeze every last pound of food out of your growing season, there is something on this list for you. Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what state you're gardening in this summer, or your USDA zone if you know it. I love seeing where this community is growing from. We've got folks in the humid South, the dry Southwest, the Pacific Northwest, and everywhere in between. Every garden is different, and I want to know where yours is. All right, let's get into it. Number 10, green beans. I know, you might be thinking, green beans? Really? That's your number 10? Hear me out, because I spent years underestimating green beans, and that was a mistake. Bush bean varieties, and I want to be specific here because pole beans are a different conversation. Bush beans are some of the fastest, most dependable producers you can put in the ground in June. Varieties like Provider, Contender, and Tender Green go from seed to harvest in about 50 to 60 days. You plant them in warm soil, which June definitely has, and these things take off. Here's what I got wrong for the first few years. I planted green beans too early, like early May in my Zone 6B garden, and I kept getting these spotty germination rates, rotting seeds, and stunted plants. Once the soil temperature is consistently above 60 degrees, and in most of the continental US, that's right around June 1st, bush beans become almost foolproof. The flowers are small and unassuming, but the pollinators find them. I've watched honeybees and native sweat bees working my bean rows on quiet mornings, and there's something deeply satisfying about that. Plant them about an inch deep, 2 to 3 inches apart in rows, and do yourself a favor, don't water them overhead. Wet foliage on beans is an invitation for disease. Water at the base. Keep the soil consistently moist for germination, then ease off. One thing I love about bush beans in June is succession planting. Put in a row every 2 weeks through the end of July, and you will have fresh green beans rolling in almost continuously into September. That kind of food security from a vegetable that costs almost nothing to grow from seed, that's the whole point. Number 9, summer squash. If you have never grown summer squash, here is your official warning. It will produce more than you expect. It will probably produce more than your neighbors expect when you start leaving bags of it on their porches in August. Zucchini is the celebrity of summer squash, but don't overlook yellow crookneck, patio star, or patio baby if you're short on space. These plants grow fast, and fruit heavily. From transplant, you're looking at 50 to 60 days. From direct seed in June, add another week or so. What I've learned about summer squash after growing it for over a decade is that the biggest killer isn't heat or drought, it's poor airflow. Plant these things with enough spacing. I'm talking at least 24 to 36 inches between plants. When you crowd squash, powdery mildew moves in like it owns the place. Give them room to breathe and they'll thank you with pounds of food. June planting is actually ideal in most of the country because you're getting squash into the ground after the vine borer moths have already laid their first round of eggs. If you've battled squash vine borers, and if you garden in the eastern half of the country, you have battled them, a June planting in many regions catches that second-generation gap, giving your plants time to get established and produce before the borers cause serious damage. Harvest summer squash when it's small, 6 to 8 inches for zucchini. I cannot stress this enough. The flavor is better, the texture is better, and it keeps the plant producing. The moment you let one squash turn into a baseball bat, the whole plant thinks its job is done and slows way down. Number 8, radishes. Okay, I know some of you just scrolled past this mentally, but stay with me. Because radishes are the most underappreciated vegetable in the American backyard garden, and they deserve way more credit than they get. Here's what radishes do that almost nothing else can: 22 to 30 days from seed to harvest. That is not a typo. 3 weeks. In a world where tomatoes take 80 days and sweet potatoes take 100. A vegetable that's ready in 3 weeks is borderline magical. I plant radishes as gap fillers. Anytime there's open soil in June, between transplants, at the edges of raised beds. In spots where earlier crops got pulled, radishes go in. They use almost no water. They take up almost no space. And if you're intercropping them with slower crops like carrots or beets, they actually loosen the soil and mark the rows. Cherry Bell and Easter Egg are my go-to varieties for summer. They handle heat better than a lot of traditional varieties. In the south or southwest, you'll want to be intentional about afternoon shade if you're pushing into July. But in June across most zones, radishes are totally comfortable. And here's the thing most people don't realize. You can eat the greens. Radish tops sautéed in a little butter and garlic are genuinely good. So even if you're not obsessed with the root, you're still getting food out of the plant. Let radishes go to flower and you'll get a nice boost of nectar for pollinators. Plus seed pods that are edible and have a mild peppery bite. Radishes give you a lot for almost nothing in return. Number 7, Swiss chard. Now we're getting into territory that changed how I think about summer gardening. Swiss chard is one of those plants that I didn't take seriously until it survived conditions that killed everything else around it. I'm in Zone 6B. A few summers ago, we had a stretch of 95-degree days in late July that turned my spinach and kale into something resembling brown paper bags. Swiss chard? Still standing, still producing, still feeding us. It's a heat-tolerant leafy green, which sounds contradictory but is completely real. Varieties like rainbow chard and bright lights are not just productive, they are flat-out beautiful. The stems come in red, yellow, orange, hot pink, and white. And when the light catches a bed of rainbow chard on a summer morning, it looks like something from a botanical garden. In June, you can direct seed chard or transplant starts. It establishes quickly and begins giving you harvestable leaves in about 50 to 60 days from seed. Though if you're harvesting outer leaves, you can start pulling a few as early as 30 to 40 days. Nutritionally, Swiss chard is a powerhouse. High in vitamins K, A, and C, rich in magnesium. It's one of those vegetables where you genuinely feel like you're eating something that's doing your body a favor. Harvest the outer leaves and the plant just keeps going. I have had single chard plants produce all the way from June planting. Through the first hard freeze in November, which in my part of the country is nearly 6 months of continuous harvest from one seed. That kind of return on investment is hard to beat. Number 6, cucumbers. Every June, I put cucumbers in the ground, and every July, I remember why I love this vegetable so much. Few things in a summer garden are as satisfying as a cucumber harvested at peak ripeness on a hot afternoon, sliced with a little salt and a squeeze of lemon. It's one of those tastes that just says summer. The good news about cucumbers in June is that they absolutely love the conditions. Warm soil, warm nights, good sun, cucumbers thrive in all of it. Varieties like Straight 8, Space Master, and Marketmore are classic for a reason. But if you want something with a little more disease resistance and productivity, look at Diva or Marketmore 76. These are varieties that hold up better in humid climates where downy and powdery mildew can become problems by August. Cucumbers are fast. From seed to first harvest, you're typically looking at 50 to 65 days depending on the variety. Here's the mistake I see over and over. People let cucumbers get too big before picking. A cucumber that's turned yellow or grown to the size of a football is bitter, seedy, and sends a signal to the plant to stop producing. Keep picking them young and keep the plant in production mode. Set a reminder on your phone to check cucumbers every 2 days. Seriously, they go from perfect to overgrown faster than almost any other vegetable. Grow them vertically if you can. A simple trellis, a cattle panel, even a few stakes and some twine. Vertical cucumbers get better airflow, easier picking, and take up a fraction of the garden space of sprawling plants. Number 5, beets. We're into the top 5 now, and I want to start here with an honest confession. I didn't grow beets until my 7th year of gardening. I thought they were complicated. I thought they took too long. I thought they were just for people who put things in mason jars. I was completely wrong. Beets planted in early June in most of the country are harvestable in 55 to 70 days, depending on the variety. Early Wonder, Chioggia, and Bull's Blood are some of my favorites. Chioggia, which is that Italian heirloom with the candy cane striped interior, is not just delicious. It's genuinely one of the most visually striking things you can grow in a kitchen garden. Bull's Blood beets do double duty. The deep burgundy foliage is beautiful enough for an ornamental border, and the greens are delicious in salads or lightly sautéed. Then in about 60 days, you pull the root and it's sweet, earthy, and incredible roasted with a little olive oil and thyme. Beets prefer soil that's been loosened at least 8 to 10 inches deep. They're roots, so compacted clay is going to fight you. If you've got heavy soil, work in some compost before planting and consider a raised bed. One thing beet seeds do that confuses new growers: each beet seed is actually a cluster of seeds, which means multiple plants will sprout from one spot. Thin them to about 3 inches apart when they're a few inches tall. I know it feels wrong to pull up healthy plants, but crowded beets won't develop properly. Beets store incredibly well. Roasted, pickled, or just refrigerated, they extend your harvest window significantly. And the greens, please don't throw away the greens. They taste similar to Swiss chard and are every bit as nutritious. Number 4, kale. Wait, don't close this tab. I know kale has had a moment, maybe too much of a moment, and some of you are kale fatigued. But we're not talking about the grocery store kale that tastes like lawn clippings. We're talking about properly grown, summer-planted kale that actually improves as the season cools. Here's what makes kale special for June planting. It's a bridge crop. You plant it in June, it grows through the summer, and then as fall temperatures drop, the cold actually converts the starches in the leaves to sugars, making the flavor dramatically better. A kale leaf in October from a plant you started in June will taste completely different. Sweeter, more complex, almost nutty than anything you can buy at a store. Lacinato kale, also called dinosaur or Tuscan kale, is my first recommendation. The long, dark blue-green leaves with their bumpy, almost reptilian texture are striking. Red Russian kale is another excellent choice for June. More tender, a bit milder, and incredibly productive. Kale is tough. It handles heat better than most leafy greens. It handles drought better than most brassicas. It handles light frost, hard frost, and in many zones, it overwinters with minimal protection. I've harvested kale from plants that survived under an inch of snow. That resilience is rare. From a nutrition standpoint, kale is in the top tier of any vegetable you can grow. High in iron, calcium, vitamins K, A, and C. The caloric return per square foot compared to growing space is one of the best of any crop. Give it full sun, consistent moisture, and keep an eye out for cabbage worms and aphids. A row cover can handle most of the pest pressure if your area is particularly bad for caterpillars. But kale is forgiving. Even pest-damaged plants will recover if you remove the bugs and give the plant some time. Number 3 on our list is turnips. Here we go. This is the one that I know some of you weren't expecting to see in the top 3. And honestly, that's exactly why it's here. Turnips are one of the most criminally overlooked vegetables in the American garden, and I am on a one-man mission to change that. Purple top white globe turnips, the classic variety, go from seed to harvest in about 45 to 60 days. You plant them in June, and by late July or August, you're pulling golf ball to tennis ball sized roots that are mild, slightly sweet, and incredibly versatile in the kitchen. Roast them, mash them, slice them thin, and eat them raw, cube them into soups and stews. Turnips take on flavor beautifully, and they're filling in a way that lighter vegetables just aren't. But here's the thing most people miss: the greens. Turnip greens are one of the most nutritious foods you can put on your plate. They're high in calcium, folate, and vitamins K, A, and C. In Southern cooking, turnip greens are a tradition that goes back generations, braised low and slow with a little smoked meat and a splash of apple cider vinegar. If you've never eaten turnip greens cooked that way, you are missing something. And it gets better. Turnips are incredibly drought tolerant once established. They grow in less than perfect soil, and they're practically pest-free in a way that their cousin, the brassica, often isn't. Sure, cabbage moths might come sniffing around, but turnips tend to escape the worst of it. If you garden in the south, zones 7, 8, 9, turnips are basically custom built for your fall garden, but a June planting gives you an early harvest before fall even begins. Hakare turnips, the Japanese salad variety that looks like a small white ball with bright green tops, are worth mentioning here too. They mature in about 35 to 40 days and are sweet enough to eat like an apple right out of the garden. If you've never tried a Hakare turnip right out of the ground, you genuinely don't know what you're missing. Number 2 on our list is bush peas. I need to stop for a moment here because I can already feel some of you thinking, peas in June, isn't it too late? And this is one of the biggest misconceptions in vegetable gardening, and it costs people an entire second pea harvest every single year. The conventional wisdom is that peas are a cool season crop. You plant them in early spring, they produce, and then the heat shuts them down. All of that is true. But what most gardeners don't know is that there is a window in many parts of the country where you can plant a fast-maturing bush pea variety in late May or June and get a fall harvest. The key is variety selection. You need fast. We're talking 60 days or less. Oregon Sugar Pod 2, Sugar Ann, and Cascadia are bred for speed and heat tolerance. You're not going to get away with this in Phoenix in June, but in zones 5 through 7 and in cooler zones 8 climates, a June pea planting for fall harvest is absolutely viable. Here's the math. If you're in zone 6B and your average first frost is mid-October, count back 60 days from October 15th. That puts you at mid-August for last planting. A June planting gives you a July to August harvest window in that stretch between spring and fall peas. And in many years with a late first frost, that window extends even further. I grew Cascadia peas last June as an experiment, planted them June 3rd, and I was harvesting snap peas by August 1st. The flavor was incredible. Somehow that second harvest always tastes sweeter to me, maybe because it's unexpected, maybe because you know what's coming in a few weeks. Peas fix nitrogen in the soil. They feed pollinators when they bloom. The tendrils and shoots are edible and wonderful in a stir-fry. And when they're done, you pull the plants, chop them in, and add back what they took. That's a complete cycle of growing right there. And now, the number one fast-growing vegetable to plant in June. Number 1, Malabar spinach. I already know what some of you are thinking. I've never heard of that. That's exactly why it's number 1. If you grew up gardening in the US, there's a decent chance nobody ever told you about Malabar spinach. I didn't learn about it until I was 6 years into gardening, and when I finally grew it for the first time, I felt a little angry about the years I'd wasted. Here is the situation that Malabar spinach solves. Regular spinach is a cool season crop. It bolts, meaning it goes to flower and seed the moment temperatures get hot. In most of the country, you're done harvesting spinach by June. If you want a spinach-like leafy green in the heat of summer, regular spinach cannot deliver. Malabar spinach, scientifically known as Bacella alba or Bacella rubra, depending on the stem color, is not actually related to regular spinach at all. It's a tropical vine, originally from Southeast Asia and India, and it does something completely counterintuitive. It grows faster and better the hotter it gets. You plant it in June when the soil is warm. It germinates in 7 to 14 days. It starts vining aggressively by early July, and by midsummer you have lush, dark green, glossy leaves that taste remarkably similar to regular spinach. The red Malabar variety has deep burgundy stems and veins that are honestly gorgeous. Grown on a trellis, an arbor, or even a simple fence, Malabar spinach is ornamental enough for a front yard garden. I've grown it on a simple bamboo teepee in the middle of a raised bed as a vertical focal point. The leaves are high in vitamins A and C, calcium, iron, and antioxidants. In Ayurvedic medicine, Malabar spinach has been used for centuries as a cooling food with anti-inflammatory properties. Add to that the fact that it feeds pollinators when it blooms with small pink and white flowers in late summer. It loves heat, it tolerates humidity, it shrugs off drought once established. In zones 9 and 10, it can behave as a perennial. In zones 5 through 8, it grows as a fast annual that you save seed from and replant the next year. One note, the mature berries of Malabar spinach are a deep purple and are edible. They're actually used as a natural food dye in some cuisines, but they do stain, so harvest them carefully if you choose to use them. This is a plant that belongs in every American summer garden. Its lack of fame is a quiet tragedy I hope to change today. Here's what I want you to take away from today. June is not the end of anything. It is the beginning of a whole second chapter of your growing season. Every one of these 12 vegetables can be in the ground right now, this week, and producing real food for your table before summer is over. You don't need a perfect garden. You don't need raised beds or drip irrigation or a greenhouse. You need good seeds, warm soil, consistent water, and the willingness to try something new. The gardeners who start treating planting as a continuous event end up with full freezers in October and stories to tell. So go plant something this week, even one of the 12, even just a row of radishes. Get something in the ground and watch what happens. And then come back here and tell me how it went. Drop a comment, share a photo, ask a question. This community learns from each other. Whatever you're growing this summer, I hope it's abundant. I'll see you in the next one.